If you're parenting a teenager, you already know it's one of the most rewarding jobs in the world and also, well, one of the most challenging. Today, we're going to dive into the science behind all that teen conflict and hopefully give you a whole new playbook for navigating these really crucial years.
Oh yeah, all of this. It can feel like you're living with a totally different person all of a sudden, right? Like every single conversation is a potential minefield. If you're feeling frustrated and just confused by the constant pushback, you are definitely not alone.
So, here's the big idea we're going to explore. What if we just reframe this whole thing? Instead of seeing a rebellious kid who's just trying to push all your buttons, what if we see a human being going through one of the biggest, most significant brain upgrades of their entire life? Seriously, that one little shift in perspective, it changes everything.
So to really get what's happening on the outside, with all the drama and the arguments, we first have to understand what's going on inside. Let's start with the biology.
Okay, so here's the deal with the teenage brain. It develops really unevenly. You've got the amygdala, think of it as the emotional engine, and it fires up super early in adolescence. It's processing all those raw emotions, fear, aggression, excitement, all of it. But then you have the prefrontal cortex, the brain's logic center, the brakes, and that part doesn't fully come online until like age 25. That's the piece that's in charge of impulse control and thinking through consequences.
And this metaphor is just perfect, isn't it? It completely nails the central problem. Your teen has this superpowered V8 engine of emotion, but the braking system is literally still being built and tested. This mismatch explains so much. The huge emotional reactions, the risky behavior, why they can seem so incredibly impulsive. It's not a character flaw, it's a brain that's a work in progress.
So now that we kind of get the hardware, let's look at the software. How does this brain under construction actually experience the world? And more specifically, how does it experience conflict with us, their parents?
You know, this is fascinating. A study asked 150 teenagers, hey, what are the main things you fight about with your parents? And they identified 7 major themes. So what we're about to see isn't just guesswork. This is what teens themselves are telling us is causing all the friction at home.
Now listen to the language here, because this is what's really interesting. A parent might see a rule, like a curfew, as just a reasonable safety measure. But from the teen's perspective, driven by that brain that's just screaming for independence, it can feel like a total loss of control. The word prisoner, that's intense, but it shows you the emotional reality they're living in.
And here we go again. Look at that intensity. Words like torture. Now, to us, that can sound like a crazy exaggeration. But when your emotional gas pedal is slammed to the floor and your brakes are still weak, that is genuinely how it can feel. These huge emotions are their reality. And when we dismiss it as just teen drama, we only make that gap between us wider.
Wow, this one is just heartbreaking. Teens are so desperately trying to figure out who they are, and their sense of self-worth is incredibly fragile. So when they're constantly compared to a sibling, or even worse, discriminated against for their gender or their grades, it just strikes at the very core of their identity. And of course, that becomes a huge source of conflict.
Think about it for a second. When was the last time you praised them for something small? The study showed that a lot of teens feel like they're living under a microscope, where every single fault is magnified, but their successes just get ignored. And that creates this deep sense of frustration, this feeling like they can just never, ever win.
Okay, so we know the brain science, and we've heard straight from teenagers about what sparks conflict. Now for the most important part, what can we, as parents, actually do about it? Let's build a new playbook, and it all starts with one of the most misunderstood ideas out there: boundaries.
Right. Setting a boundary isn't about winning a fight or putting your foot down. It's about being predictable, reliable, and safe. When a teen tests a boundary and you respond calmly and consistently, they might not like it in that moment, but subconsciously they're learning that you are a trustworthy person they can count on. You actually become their safe harbor.
So how do we actually do this in the heat of the moment? Well, here's a simple 3-step process. First, and this is the hardest one, manage your own emotions. When you feel that flash of anger, just pause, take a deep breath. Second, instead of barking a command, ask a question. Something like, hey, what's the plan for getting your room cleaned up today? This actually invites them to think instead of just reacting. And finally, clarify your boundary, respectfully. I need the room cleaned by dinner so we can all have a calm evening. Thanks.
Okay, so once we have that solid framework of healthy boundaries in place, we can start using our most powerful tool for turning all this conflict into connection. And that tool, of course, is communication.
So let's just quickly recap what those teens told us in the study. They feel like they aren't being listened to. They want more freedom.
They feel like they're being constantly compared, criticized, and pressured about school. What's the core theme here? It's a lack of trust and a lack of understanding.
And this is the beautiful part. The teens themselves tell us exactly what they need. Listening and empathy, freedom and flexibility, forgiveness and acceptance, trust. They are literally giving us the roadmap. The solution is the direct opposite of the problem. It's not a big secret.
And this quote from a psychologist's notes just says it all. This mother thought her son really valued their therapy sessions. But what he valued most? It was the simple, dedicated time afterward, just sitting with his mom with no agenda, no lecture, just connection. Sometimes it's not about the grand gestures. It's about sharing a croissant and a real conversation.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. How do we really shift our mindset from just managing conflict to actually building connection?
This right here, this is probably the most important takeaway of all. In the heat of an argument over a messy room or a missed curfew, you have to ask yourself, what do I really want in the long run? Do I want a short-term win that just creates resentment? Or do I want a long-term relationship that's built on respect? Prioritizing that connection changes every single choice you make. Ultimately, our job is to be the person they can come to when they inevitably mess up. And that kind of trust, it's not a given, it's earned. And it's earned in these small, hard moments of conflict, when we make the choice to listen instead of lecture, and to connect instead of control. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you feel an argument starting to bubble up, just take that one deep breath and ask yourself this question. What if this moment of friction isn't just a problem I have to solve? What if it's actually an invitation to learn what my teen is thinking, what they're feeling, and what they need from me right now? That simple shift could honestly change everything.